Well, we're at the end of the season here. I mentioned on a bunch of videos, January 3rd, we hunted late last night, and that was our last sit, and it's time to give it up for the year. And I love deer hunting season. You know, I don't over hunt. I don't overset my stands. I don't over pressure. I don't believe that more time off the couch equals more deer. In fact, it's the opposite. So I don't get burned out. I don't burn out my land, my stands, or my hunt. And so when it comes to this time of year, it's a great time to reflect. I'll be doing a lot of reflecting when I get into end of January, February. Right now I have so much work to do, even going out and cutting bedding areas, making rabbit houses, let alone clients, going to the Archery Trade Association show. I'll be doing that here pretty soon, or if, depending on when you see this, maybe already have gone to it. Great time to reflect, and it's important to reflect on your priorities. And one of the biggest priorities is on private land, you have to have food plots. Because if you don't, if you're just practicing, quote, TSI, timber stand improvement or habitat stand improvement, then someone else puts a quality food plot program in within a mile of you. If they do that, they're going to take your deer. You're not going to see much during the season, because if you have quality food, those mature bucks will travel a great distance to find it. I believe that's why we saw a higher percentage of the older bucks in the neighborhood this year more consistently, because the neighborhood deer are getting used to the fact that we have quality food here, and they're sticking around more often throughout the entire season. So when we sat last night, we were going for specifically 2 different bucks. Jam 4 is a Big 10, and 7-4, which is another Big 10 point. They're both 165 to 175 class deer, 5-6 years old. And those are the deer we were after last night. We had a realistic chance at them because we'd seen them the 2 days prior on the property during daylight. And so we narrowed it down to them. Great time to reflect. The food is so critical. And with that being said, you know, the food is your greatest attraction, attracting deer from all around, but it's also your greatest source of risk to destroying your hunt and your herd. The more deer you attract with your high quality attractions, the more you repel. If you hunt them poorly, you create a nocturnal food plot use, which is horrible. What I see a lot of times, we're out in year 5 to 7, 8 of someone owning their land. They put food plots in. They're so excited to get work done, get habitat planted. They have great food plots. They might even have a little bit of a farming background so that they know how to plant these plots. They get great green, lush crops growing, and then deer only hit them at night. There's ways to correct that. But bottom line is, we see this where the deer might have been great the first year, year 1 with food plots. The deer are all over the food plots. They're hitting consistently. Year 2, not so much. Year 3, even worse. Year 4, 5, people are wondering what's going on. What are my neighbors doing different? You know, they don't blame themselves. By 5, 6, 7 year, they're calling us saying, what can we do? Should we sell the land and give up? Well, a lot of times it's because the food plots are so attractive, they're creating a nocturnal condition. Not only do those big bucks, those mature bucks in the area, not come to the food plots during night by year 3, 4, 5, they're just not coming on the land at all, because they recognize that that food plot is a nocturnal plot which reflects poorly of the entire land. They just stay away from the 40 acres, 80 acres, even though there's still big bucks in the area. They just avoid the property altogether because they've established a condition of attract, repel on their land, and those mature bucks recognize it to the point where they don't even come on the property during the cover of darkness anymore. So it's a real problem. Number 1, one of the things I see a lot on food plots is the food plot is not screened. So you can look 100 yards back into the hardwoods from that food plot. For one, that doesn't pull doe bedding close enough to that plot. If you can't see deer, you can't see any type of cover for 100 yards, it's just wide open, those deer are going to bed 100 yards away from the food plot or more. That's a bad thing because you're pushing those bucks so far back. The does and fawns are always going to bed first, the young bucks and then bucks, mature bucks. So if those does and fawns are pushed 100 yards away and you can see all the way through your timber to that point or cover, then are those mature bucks even relating to the food source to begin with? But if they have to cross that big dead open area during the daylight, they're not going to. So you want to create a screened edge. Now people talk about a feathered edge. There's even states that have feathered edge or feathered edge feathering around food plots. They provide dollars for that to come in and have someone cut this for you. Hardwood regeneration is not a feathered edge. That's a wall. You can still see through it a lot of times. It's porous. Feathered edge is more grasses, briars, weeds, could be hardwood regeneration, conifer, or a combination of all of those. That's feathered. When you think feathered, think soft. That's what that term was indicated for. It's a soft edge, meaning grasses, briars, shrubs, hardwood regeneration, conifers, and then into your hardwood. That's a soft edge. Just an abrupt hinge cut area, bunch of blowdowns, trees knocked down, and then hardwoods. That's not a soft edge. So people are getting dollars to do this stuff, and it's not really that effective for them. It's better than nothing at all, but you can take it a lot further. I really like that grass. Have 6 feet of switchgrass, then have the hardwood regeneration. Stab some shrubs or other types of conifer in that hardwood regeneration so you have more diversity and the deer feel more comfortable bedding right on the back side of it. But what is a feathered edge? It's got to be soft. It's a gradual transition back to hardwoods and back towards your cover. More of an upland mix where it attracts lots of wildlife. If you have rabbits, pheasants living in your hardwood or your feathered edge, you've done an exceptional job. That's an actual feathered edge. Is your food plot a hunting or holding plot? There's a big difference. Hunting plot is a pass-through. It's on the way to a holding plot. A holding plot is a food plot that holds deer until dark and then releases them at dark to go to destination areas. We watched consistently recently while we were hunting. We were watching a 2-acre field. We're off to the side. The deer travel through, and before dark, they're heading across the open ag field to a distant destination food plot that they get to by about dark or before or right after dark. That's a destination. That's a different destination. Food plots are where the deer are going to after dark. That holding plot holds them on your land before dark. They represent the bottom of the funnel of daylight movement, and then they release and go over to somewhere else where they're going to be all night to that destination. Hunting plot you can hunt and sit right on because they're just moving right through to a holding plot. Holding plot you can hunt from a distance with a gun. The bottom line is you don't want to spook deer off either one of them. And that's number 3 here. You can never spook deer from your food plots. It doesn't matter what kind it is. Now, of course, the exception is to shoot them. You know, that's what we're out there hunting for. I wouldn't advise shooting a bunch of does off your plots, your holding plots and hunting plots during the heart of the season or even close to it. I talk about early in the season, late in the season. Great time to shoot does. When it gets towards the middle and you get towards traditional gun season timing and the rut timing, terrible time to shoot does unless you have a doe on the ground. But certainly if you're doing it on your food plots, unless you have a buck. Dylan's looking at me, giving me a weird look back there. So thanks, Dylan. But unless you have a buck on the ground already, then shoot more. It's a great time. You already have to go into the woods to retrieve. But be very careful when it revolves around your food plots, and especially in the heart of the season, because one misstep can have an effect for 2 or 3 weeks of getting that herd back to normal. And some of those mature bucks just will never come back if you really have that great of an intrusion at the wrong time. If you're spooking deer off your food plots because you're walking by them, you're accessing around them and they can see you, you have a blind right on the edge of the plot, then you need to move that plot, get rid of the plot, shrink the plot, screen the plot further on your approach edge. I recommend at least 15, 20 feet wide of switchgrass on one side if you're just going to plant some grasses. And unfortunately, if you plant conifers or tall trees like that to potentially screen, and if you're planting even willows, you know, willows at a distance can screen your food plots, but up close you can still see through them after the leaves have dropped. And certainly I've seen people plant hybrid poplars for screening. They're a really poor choice because they lose their leaves. You can see right through the trunks. Unless they're literally 2 feet apart and staggered in several rows, you're going to see right through them. So screening your access, getting rid of the plot, shrinking the plot, moving the plot. Bottom line is if you're consistently spooking deer off your plots because of your movements, you need to change your movements or change the plot. One of the two, you can't do that. You can't spook deer from your plots. That's the number one reason why they turn nocturnal. Your food plot should be the greatest sanctuary that you have on your property. One of the things I always like to look at, I talk to clients all the time, is the 25 deer test. If you have a blind, if you insist on having a blinder stand in that spot on your stand, on your land right next to the food plot, can you get in and out of that blind or stand without spooking 25 deer if they were on the plot? If your answer is no, then changes need to be made. Again, move the plot, get rid of the plot, screen the plot, change your access, change the blind location, the stand location. Something has to be done. What's interesting, we talk about bow and gun all the time. A client will say, well, I'm a bow hunter, so I want to put blinds on my food plots. Folks, if you have big food plots, that's awesome. That doesn't mean you need to shoot deer right on top of them. If you have a giant food plot that's consistent and the deer look at it as a sanctuary, when they get there, they're safe. That means your bedding areas will be full, your travel corridors will be full, the deer that are hitting your water holes, mock scrapes on the way to the food or on the way from food, between your bedding area stands in the morning, you'll have an entire assemblage of stands because of that food plot, and you're not hunting it. And when that food plot is daylight use, then that's when dreams are made when you have these small parcels. Dreams are destroyed when you spook those deer off those same food plots. It can't be done. So I don't care if you're a bow hunter, gun hunter. I'd rather shoot them with a bow. I love hunting muzzleloader though. I don't hunt with a gun, shotgun. I really don't care. There's nothing better. Last night we sat with a muzzleloader, Dylan, my son Sam and I in a blind, and up to a distance we could see deer a half-mile away on a distant hillside or across the fields. I don't know, Dylan, we probably saw 25 deer, maybe even 30.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of deer. It was fun. It was a really fun set. But we didn't spook them. And that's the whole idea. You can't sit and watch food if you're going to spook them even once or twice, because it has such a drastic effect. And I know a lot of you right now, we're reflecting on the season and we're looking back and you're looking at food plots and saying, boy, we had great deer using them in September, October, and then after we hunted them a few times, they just didn't come back. You wait 2 weeks, hunt it again, wait 2 weeks, hunt again. The deer never have time to settle down and get back to that. And what you find is the mature bucks have a really hard time getting back. So if you have a bow, gun, you hunt these little hunting plots on the way to a big holding plot, that's awesome because they're just passing through. If you're hunting those holding plots, great to hunt with a gun. I have a lot of clients that enjoy hunting gun season now because they never had a situation where they could watch food plots, let them fill up with deer, and enjoy just simply watching deer for an hour and a half. It's awesome, it's fun. That's why I like hunting. I like watching deer. It's not all about shooting. If I was just shooting deer, I just wanted to go shoot a doe and shoot a small buck, I'd be done in the first or second sit of the entire year. I wouldn't even get to enjoy my property or where I hunt and all the hard work I put in. Instead, I like to watch deer. I like to see movements, and then you get to learn more. You get to become a better deer hunter. But most of all, you can't spook deer off your food plots. You can reverse the effects of nocturnal hunting plots and food plots on your land. And you know what? It doesn't take generations of deer to reverse it. It takes planning this off season, doing it right during the growing season, during the summertime. And you can reverse this and reverse the effects of nocturnal food plots right now for this next season and for the rest of your life that you own the land. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes so that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.